Good afternoon. We are also live streaming this on YouTube, so may I request the person to go live on this. Good afternoon, everyone. I would, as you know, we have all gathered here to pay our tributes to Shri Sumit Chakravartty, who passed away last month. I now request Mr. Suhas Borkar to conduct the proceedings, former trustee of IIC, to formally conduct the proceedings and get on with the program. And please put your mobiles on silent mode or switch them off.
We are gathered here today to commemorate the life of Shri Sumit Chakravartty. We are overwhelmed by the response of Shri Sumit Chakravartty's friends, colleagues and associates to join us today. Dr. Gargi Chakravartty, wife of Shri Sumit Chakravartty, is watching the webcast live of this meeting in Kolkata. Shri Sagnik Chakravartty, son of Shri Sumit Chakravartty, is here with us at the meeting. Shri Sumit Chakravartty was an eminent journalist and editor of Mainstream Weekly. He passed away on 26 July 2025 in Kolkata. He was 79. After his post-graduation in chemistry from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, he took up journalism in 1968. His parents' legacy: Mother Renu Chakravartty was a leading parliamentarian and trade union leader. Father Nikhil Chakravartty was a doyen of journalism. All this brought high expectations and public scrutiny to Sumit. He joined Patriot Daily in New Delhi as a staff reporter, and between 1974 and 1978, he was posted in Moscow as its correspondent. In 1983, he joined the Daily as a special correspondent. In 1987, he joined Mainstream and became its editor in 1992. He was General Secretary of the Editors Guild of India 1997-2000 and its Treasurer 2000-2002. Shri Sumit Chakravartty became a member of IIC in 1996 and was actively associated with the Centre's activities. He chaired and spoke in the Centre's innumerable discussions, seminars and conferences for long years. Shri Sumit Chakravartty practiced journalism with courage, conviction and integrity, and strongly stood up for civil liberties and human rights. As editor, he fostered informed debate and gave space to diverse viewpoints. Over the years, Mainstream became a platform for critical discourse in the country. In 2020, Mainstream became an online platform, and we all hope the legacy of Shri Sumit Chakravartty shall be carried forward with the same courage, conviction and integrity that he lived with. Can we have the Vaishnav Jan?
वैष्णव जन को तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान ना रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे समदृष्टि ने कृष्णा त्यागी पर स्त्री जेने मात रे जिह्वा थकी असत्य न बोले पर धन नव जाने हाथ रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे राम नाम शू ताली लागी सकल तीरथ तेरा तन मारे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे वनलोभी ने कपट रहित छे काम क्रोध निवार्या रे घणे नरसैयो तेनु दर्शन करता कुळ एको तेरे तार्या रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान नाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे
Now we'll have Rabindra Sangeet by Shri Samar Chakravartty and Malvika Thakur.
And this is the Pandita Roy Munshi. She has just
Thank you.
joined with me today
Yeah,
itself. Thank you. Hari Om, Hari Om, Katav Kanta Kaste Putraha Sansaryo Yamativa Vichitraha Kasya Tvam Va Kutayatah Tattvam Chintaya Yadidang Bhratah Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam Govindam Bhaj Mudmate Hari Om Ma Kurudhan Jana Yovana Garvan Harti Nimeshat Kalha Sarvan Maya Maya Mridam Akhilan Hitva Brahmapadam Pravishashubhiditva Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam Govindam Bhaj Mudmate Hari Om Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralan Tadbad Jivitam Atishaya Chapalam Sharamati Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnabha Taranenoka Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam Govindam भज मूड मते हरे ओ हरे ओ
Good afternoon. I would like to pay my musical tribute to the departed soul of Shri Sumit Chakravartty. My first offering is a Rabindra Shongit, Kano Chokher Jole. For all those members of the audience who are not familiar with Bengali language, I would briefly explain the theme of the song. In this song, the poet is regretting his inability to soak with his own tears the dry, dusty roads that his dear friend had traveled to meet him. Since in Rabindra Shongit, there is quite often an intermingling of two levels, that is, normal worldly level and the metaphysical one, it is evident that the poet is mentioning about the supreme benevolent entity. Kano Chokher Jole. কেন চোখের জলে ভেজে দিলেম না শুকনো ধুলো যত কে জানে তো আসবে তুমি গো অনাহুতের মতো কেন চোখের জলে ভেজে দিলেম না শুকনো ধুলো যত পার হয়ে এসেছ মোর নাই বাসে থা ছায়া তোর পথের দুঃখ দিলেম তোমায় কো এমন ভাগ্য হতো কেন চোখের জলে ভেজে দিলেম না শুকনো ধুলো যত আলো সেতে বসেছিলেম আমি আপন ঘরে ছায় জানি নাই যে তোমায় কত ব্যথা বাজবে পায়ে পায়ে ওই বেদনা আমার বুকে বেজেছিল গোপন দুঃখে ওই বেদনা আমার বুকে বেজেছিল গোপন দুঃখে দাগ দিয়েছে মর্মে আমায় গো গভীর হৃদয় ক্ষত কেন চোখের জলে ভিজিয়ে দিলেম না শুকনো ধুলো যত
ये हारमोनियम की आवाज आ रहा है बाहर आ रहे हैं बाहर ठीक जी सर
জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে বন্ধু হে আমার রয়েছ দাঁড়ায়ে জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে এ মোর হৃদয়ে বিজন আকাশে তোমার মহাশয় আলোতে ঢাকাশে এ মোর হৃদয়ে বিজন আকাশে তোমার মহাশয় আলোতে ঢাকাশে গভীর কি আশায় নিবিড় পুলকে তাহার পানে যায় দুবাহু বাড়ায়ে জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে বন্ধু হে আমার রয়েছ দাঁড়ায়ে জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে নীরব নিশিতব চরণ নিছায়ে আধারকে শোভা দিয়েছে বিছায়ে নীরব নিশিতব চরণ নিছায়ে আধারকে শোভা দিয়েছে বিছায়ে আজি কোন গান লিখিল প্লাবিয়া তোমার বিনা হতে আসিল না ভিয়া আজি কোন গান লিখিল প্লাবিয়া তোমার বিনা হতে আসিল না ভিয়া ভুবন মিলে যায় সুরের রণনে গানের বেদনায় যাই যে হারায়ে জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে বন্ধু হে আমার রয়েছ দাঁড়ায়ে জীবন মরণে সীমানা ছাড়ায়ে
যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে কেন ভোরের আকাশ ভোরে দিলে এমন গানে গানে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে কেন তারা মালা গাথা কেন ফুলে শয়ন পাতা কেন তারা মালা গাথা কেন ফুলে শয়ন নয়ন পাতা কেন দক্ষিণ হাওয়া গোপন কথা জানায় কানে কানে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে কেন আকাশ তবে এমন ছাওয়া ছায় এ মুখের বাণে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে তবে ক্ষণে ক্ষণে কেন আমার হৃদয় পাগল হেন তোরি সে সাগরে ভাষায় যাহার কুল সে নাহি জানে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে যদি প্রেম দিলে না প্রাণে
Next, I would be singing some portions of a Rabindra Sangeet and a Nazrul Geet. Since these two great poets shared similar thoughts and ideas, some of their songs convey very similar meanings. One such pair of songs is Amar Hiyar Majhe by Rabindranath Tagore and Antore Tumi Acho Chirodin by Nazrul Islam. Both these songs speak about introspection and searching for divinity in one's own soul rather than anywhere outside. আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে দেখতে আমি পাইনি তোমায় দেখতে আমি পাইনি আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে বাহির পানে চোখ মেলেছে বাহির পানে আমার হৃদয় পানে চাইনে আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে দেখতে আমি পাইনি তোমায় দেখতে আমি পাইনি আমার সকল ভালোবাসায় সকল আঘাত সকল আশায় আমার সকল ভালোবাসায় সকল আঘাত সকল আশায় তুমি ছিলে ও তুমি ছিলে আমার কাছে আমি তোমার কাছে যাইনি আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে দেখতে আমি পাইনি তোমায় দেখতে আমি পাইনি। অন্তরে তুমি আছো চিরদিন, ওগো অন্তর জামি। অন্তরে তুমি আছো চিরদিন, ওগো অন্তর জামি। বাহিরে বৃথাই যত খুঁজি তাই পাই না তোমারে আমি, ওগো অন্তর জামি। অন্তরে তুমি আছো চিরদিন, ওগো অন্তর জামি। প্রাণের মতো না তার সম আমাতে আছো হে অন্তরতম। প্রাণের মতন তার সম আমাতে আছো হে অন্তরতম। মন্দির রচি বিগ্রহ গড়ি দেখে হাসো তুমি স্বামী, ওগো অন্তর জামি। অন্তরে তুমি আছো চিরদিন, ওগো অন্তর জামি। এই করেছ ভালো নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে। এই করেছ ভালো, এই করেছ ভালো নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে। এই করেছ ভালো, এমনি করে হৃদয়ে মোর তীব্র দহন জানো নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে। এই করেছ ভালো। আমারে ধূপ না পোড়ালে গন্ধ কিছুই নাহি ঢালে। আমারে দীপ না জ্বালালে দেয় না কিছুই আলো। এই করেছ ভালো নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে। এই করেছ ভালো। যখন থাকে অচেতনে এ চিত্ত আমার, আঘাত সেজে পরশ তব সেই তো পুরস্কার। যখন থাকে অচেতনে এ চিত্ত আমার, আঘাত সেজে পরশ তব সেই তো পুরস্কার। অন্ধকারে মোহে লাজে বজ্রে তোলো আগুন করে আমার যত কালো, এই করেছ ভালো নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে, এই করেছ ভালো। এমনি করে হৃদয়ে মোর তীব্র দহন জালো, নিঠুর হে, নিঠুর হে, এই করেছ ভালো। The last song is Amar Jawar Shamay Holo, a Nazrul Geet. It means that the time for me to leave has come, so bid me goodbye, wipe your tears, open the door and let me go. আমার যাবার সময় হলো, দাও বিদায়, মুছো আখি দুয়ার খোলো, দাও বিদায়। আমার যাবার সময় হলো, দাও বিদায়। ফোটে যে ফুল আধার রাতে, ঝড়ে ধোলায় ভোর বেলাতে, ফোটে যে ফুল আধার রাতে, ঝড়ে ধোলায় ভোর বেলাতে, আমায় তারা ডাকে সাথী, আয় রে আয়, সজল করুণ নয়ন তোলো, দাও বিদায়। আমার যাবার সময় হলো, দাও বিদায়। অন্ধকারে এসেছিলাম, থাকতে আধার যাই চলে, ক্ষণিক ভালো বেসেছিলে, চিরকালের নাই হলে, হলো চেনা হলো দেখা, নয়ন জলে রইল লেখা, হলো চেনা হলো দেখা, নয়ন জলে রইল লেখা। দূর বিরহে ডাকে কে কা বরষায়, ফাগুন স্বপন ভোলো ভোলো, দাও বিদায়। আমার যাবার সময় হলো, দাও বিদায়। মোছো আখি দুয়ার খোলো, দাও বিদায়। আমার যা সময় হলো দাও বিদায়।
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, is there one more? That's it? Okay, yeah. So we'll now have a very, very brief 1 minute 50 seconds clip from Sumit. This is of the 21st January 2020, when we were commemorating 50 years of the Gandhi King Memorial Plaza. Reminders which hurt, in this very auditorium. Can you play that, please?
So I would say what happened on December 6, 1992 was the first frontal and open attack by the majoritarian forces on the entire democratic secular polity. And we all know the result. In the last 6 years, we have seen how that attack has now fructified into something else. Precisely because the levers of power are now handled by those who are controlling power at the center. And they have no reason to feel less emboldened, precisely because they have the majority with them, and also the backing from the people through successive elections. So this is precisely what December 6, 1992 means to all of us. It is etched in our collective memory. And I don't know how we will be able to wipe out that memory. At least, in my opinion, not in the coming few years.
Can we have Shri H.K. Dua now, please? You won't be able to catch the camera, won't be able to catch this.
चलो करो घुमा दो बस पकड़ कर रखना ओके I'll be brief. I will be brief. I'll just take a minute or two. Sumit was a good friend of mine. He never talked of his genealogy. His mother was a prominent member of parliament, and father, of course, I knew. Nikhil was a good friend of mine. And Nikhil and I used to meet quite often. He was much senior to me in years, but senior to me in wisdom and much else. But when Nikhil and I were together discussing vital issues, not concerning myself or he concerning, only the country has to be discussed. But Sumit never bragged about it, that how great was his son. And the mother was a prominent MP who contributed a lot to debates of that time which were raging in the country. I met Nikhilda when emergency was imposed. And much else had happened, I won't go into that. But when Nikhil and I were discussing vital issues which we thought were vital, Sumit used to drop in and never intervened. If Nikhil is wrong and I am wrong, he will tell us later on, no, there is something else to say. Always a picture of humility, intellectual humility, but deep intellect. He thought about things, carry on the wishes of Nikhil Chakravartty, who had said, let mainstream survive. So mainstream had become a compulsory reading of people who wanted to know, go beyond the news. He never shut any opinion. Of course, it was definitely a leftist magazine, but he never shut any other article, which whether he agreed or didn't agree, but immaterial, he published it. So I said, Nikhilda, you have published this article? He said, why not? But there's a counter article who would push in to counter the view. And same thing, same advice, policy was followed by the son. Our thoughts go to him, and that's why such a large gathering is here. Unfortunately, Gargi couldn't come here. She herself is fighting health issues. For last 3 years, we have not seen Sumit in Delhi because he went away to Calcutta because of health reasons of health and other reasons. Now Gargi is fighting health issues. The son is here. I'm sure he'll be conveying everything to our tributes to Sumit, wonderful man, never complaining, but considerable depth which was hidden in his views. May his memory live long. Thank you.
Anand Nath, President, Editors Guild of India.
Thank you. As everyone knows, Sumit Da was General Secretary of the Guild and Treasurer of the Guild. For 5 years, he was part of the office bearers of Guild. I had never had the fortune of meeting him. So when Suhasji called me last week, I said, sir, this privilege should actually, to speak on behalf of Guild, should go to one of the senior members who knew him. But he said, this should be done from the office of Guild. So very kind of you to allow me this privilege, in spite of me not knowing him personally. Of course, we all knew of him, the magazine he ran. And so I spoke to quite a few senior members of the Guild to understand for myself the person behind the name. And I must say, what Dua Sahib has already said was resonated by all his colleagues, some of whom are here. His steadfast commitment to press freedom, his passion for carrying on mainstream in spite of all the challenges that magazines, independent magazines, have been facing for the many years that they've been facing. In spite of, his father being the legendary Nikhilda, his mother being a prominent parliamentarian, his humility in never having any airs about it, his intellectual humility, as Dua Sahib said, and his availability to anybody who needed help in any manner. And I'm just going to repeat some of the things that were echoed by his colleagues. A fighting editor, like his father, always the one to be actively involved in leading any kind of protest or fighting for any issues of press freedom. He took an active stance on the issue of wage board, which was under a lot of stress, and of course, as we know, wage board is no longer there. He worked the one to work behind the scenes, never to take undue limelight, never to have any airs about both his lineage and the important pillar he has been. An honest referee, a pillar of IWPC, the one to whom everyone turned to for settling an issue. In spite of his left leanings, his steadfast objectivity, and never to take sides, as Dua Saab said, allowing all kinds of plurality of opinion, not just in his magazine, but in all kinds of debates. A lightness in his conversation and attitude, never the one to have any air or chip on his shoulder. A fine reporter in Moscow, of course. And of course, giving a home to Guild, because as we all know, the Guild was established by Nikhilda, and for almost, I think, 30 years, their home continued to be the official address of the Guild. And he continued to give space to Guild. So what we have Guild as an institution today, I can very well imagine was because of all the support, all the space, and all the efforts he put in those years when Guild was still a somewhat nascent institution. And of course, he was associated with many causes, wage board being one of them. He was actively involved in the issue of paid news. And he always remained an active voice in Guild as an office bearer, as a member of the executive committee, and in the years to come. Of course, it's my deep loss that I never got to meet him, but his legacy continues, and we hope to continue to serve the organization, institution that was founded by his father, and he so ably and so generously supported in his time. Thank you.
Gautam Lahiri, Press Club of India President.
Well, thank you, Subhash. At the outset, on behalf of Press Club of India, I must pay respect and homage to one of the finest journalists I knew, that Sumit Chakravartty. I am remembering his face just now. He's behind the screen, almost smiling, and he used to come to Press Club in a typical Bengali attire, Bhadra Bengali Babu, type dhoti and Punjabi, the kurta. And, well, for this chance meeting, I was reading mainstream, no doubt, but point is, when I got a chance meeting with him, when I heard that Nikhil Chakravartty was awarded by the then Awami League government as the Friends of Liberation War of Bangladesh, and I found that Sumit Chakravartty was the recipient of that award. So I wanted to know, because I have a special passion for Bangladesh, and this is my specialization on this particular country. So that I came to know many things from him, about many stories about Bangladesh Liberation War from him, particularly the memories of Nikhil Chakravartty, and which he told me one story that Nikhilda was a very good friend of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. In the first press conference held after the Liberation War, he went there, but he was sitting at the back. And when Sheikh Mujibur found him sitting in the back, he called him. And I found recently in some of the books by one of the daughter of late Tajuddin Ahmed that he mentioned that story there also. So that's why Sumit, and regularly he used to come to club when he was, his health was permitting. And one of the reasons I remember him, because he always used to tell us that though it is a club, try to build it as an institution. We are trying for that. We are trying, he is one of our advisors. Like I used to take advice from Mr. Dua Saab, he is sitting here. Every time before the election, I call him, please come and vote. And so Sumit used to come regularly. Only I will support you if you shed the tag of club, because there's our founder members as, they have established the club in those days. Those days, freedom of expression was never questioned by, I think, by any other section of the society or the polity of the country. But unfortunately, later on, the situation changed, and Sumit was one of the things that he given some advice how to build it at an institution. And I hope if you are some people, if you regularly visit Press Club, you know that Press Club is now championing the cause of media freedom issues, which was one of the dear subject of Sumit. So it will be a great respect and great homage to Sumit if we can carry on the flag of freedom of press. Thank you very much.
Sujata Raghavan, Indian Women Press Corps President. Okay, please go.
Hello. So, friends, I'm here to express my grief, my thoughts and sentiment, and I carry with me the sentiments and grief of so many women journalists, members of the Indian Women's Press Corps, who I represent, the IWPC. We've been sharing this with each other and on common platforms ever since Sumit Chakravartty passed on. So, if you are aware, the IWPC was established in the early 90s by women journalists, mostly in the print media, because they felt the need for a space for women journalists to share, exchange, relax, and catch a breath in between their hectic work schedules. And it has, of course, grown exponentially over the years. And somewhere along the line, we adopted a governance model which centered around annual elections to elect the managing committee for the year. And it was Sumit Chakravartty who played the pivotal role in conducting these elections. And all done with a poise and a grace that has left an indelible mark and an imprint on the minds and hearts of so many women journalists down the ages. As you know, as you can imagine, he would stick to the rules and he would conduct the elections in a very transparent, stringent manner and deliver the verdict as per the established process. So to him, we owe a great debt of gratitude, and I'm speaking on behalf of the managing committee, the office bearers, and the staff of IWPC, and the entire membership over the years. We express a sense of great indebtedness for laying the foundation of democratic foundation of the institution of IWPC. My own connection with Sumit goes further back, actually. Our fathers, my father and Nikhil Chakravartty, were both illustrious journalists of their time. We lived in the same government colony in Kakanagar, where at that time, some houses used to be allotted to the press in government colonies. But it was in the 80s, I think, that Sumit joined Blitz, where my father was the chief of bureau, A. Raghavan. Blitz was, of course, as some of you may be aware of, it was a weekly which was known for its exposés and its political analysis, also some light-hearted stuff. And at one point, the management decided to bring out a daily, which was appropriately called the Daily. And Sumit joined as a special correspondent. So in those early days, I was barely out of my teens. I would meet him at Blitz office because I used to go and bug my father for this, that, or the other. And always immaculately dressed, soft-spoken, mild-mannered, very much a gentleman journalist. But in those interactions, even in those early days, I could catch a glimpse of his deep intellect and his wide-ranging knowledge on so many issues that he brought to the table. That was in the 80s. Then much later, much later, 2 decades later, in the 2000s, it was me who joined Mainstream for a short while. Actually, it was Sumit who offered me the job at a time when I most needed it. I had lost my father. I was feeling quite bereft, and I was hopelessly out of touch with the professional world, the work that I was used to, and I also did not have the skills to contribute to any work situation. I think he sensed it. It was pure kindness on his part. I knew it then, I know it now, and I don't think I shall ever forget it. I did not stay very long at Mainstream. I was drawn to other things, development communications. But the grit, the energy, the passion, the drive, I saw all of that. I was witness to the frenzied days and the late nights, witness to a legacy that his father and the founder of Mainstream, Nikhil Chakravartty, had passed on to his son. And Sumit put his heart and soul and everything, his entire resources, to ensure that Mainstream stayed afloat. I can't even imagine how heart-wrenching it must have been to see Mainstream office in Shahpur Jat closed down during the COVID pandemic, and the print edition shut down. To Tanya, who's not here, I spoke to her in the morning, his wife, and to his son Shagnik, and who's here, sitting here, and his daughter-in-law Nilanjana. I don't think I can say anything to ease their suffering and pain. I think words will not suffice. But still, let me say this, that in the passing of Sumit Chakravartty, we have lost a gem. I don't think there is any other way to say it. A person who devoted his entire being to the values of democracy, secularism, freedom of expression, social justice, and for a world that would work and bring justice to all, but especially the disempowered and the disadvantaged. So Sumit was that. And he lived out these principles throughout his life. He stuck to them, and he reflected them through the pages of Mainstream, week after week, year after year, and that constituted, I believe, a vast chunk of our own lives and times and that of our country. So I would say, let's cherish that, let's cling on to that, to all that he stood for, all that he struggled for, all that he suffered for, all that he believed in, and the legacy that he has left behind for some of us, for actually all of us, and especially for those who want to shoulder it. Thank you.
Aurobindo Ghosh.
Sumit Chakravartty, I have lost a very good friend. It's an honor for me to speak a few words on him and his contribution to journalism as well as the society at large. All old memories come back in a flash. I remember some of the occasions. I met him first at Patriot in 1978 or 79. And a smiling face, but serious about the subject we were discussing. And I came to know him much more over the years. A gentle, kind, very honest person. Fearless, courageous, but with very strong principles and values. So he fought for so many things all his life. I happen to know his father, Nikhil Da, and once when Nikhil Da was there at Kirorimal College where I used to teach, he took me aside and said, Aurobindo, you are a good friend of Sumit, please look after him. And somehow I had to protest. I said, myself looking after him, he's very mature. He is very mature. He will be able to look after Mainstream, don't worry. But last night when I was thinking of Sumit, I thought, the smiling face, yes. The gentle kindness, the accessibility, all correct. But what a difficult life he led. So many pressures on him, and so many things he was doing. But he did them steadfastly, and built mainstream, I would say much beyond the legacy of even his great father. And it became a center of discussion and commitment. That was Sumit Chakravartty, commitment, and commitment to human values and human principles. Come to think of it, with his CPI background, he opened the doors of mainstream to the discussion on Shingur and Nandigram. Tremendous. And the Koregaon prisoners, all these friends, Shoma Sen and Varavara Rao, there have been so many letters on their conditions in jail. The Bhima Koregaon prisoners, in mainstream. And I remember I also published an article on the report that Jean Dries and company, they went to Kashmir after Article 370 was abrogated, and they wrote a report. And I wrote an article, and Sumit immediately published it. And I must express my gratitude. So many articles he published of mine with great alacrity and care, that it was all correct. So that was Sumit Chakravartty. He built up mainstream almost like a broad, democratic, anti-fascist front. And I hope it continues to remain so. I met him at a meeting here only, in IIC, on Bangla Bhasha Bachao, that was organized by Taupati Chakravartty, one of our teachers of the university. And there was Sumit. And then I remembered when Devdutt passed away and there was a memorial meeting, there also was Sumit. He had a very wide circle because his difficulties were many, and otherwise also he was very large-hearted. Funding was a great problem for mainstream, but that did not deter him. So we can go on remembering Sumit for such a great man he was. I would say 1 in a billion, rather a trillion, a person very rare. And I was fortunate to know him. I pay my respects, my tributes, and deepest condolences to his family, to Gargi, to Shagnik, and to Shagnik's wife and the family, and to all of you who have gathered today to respect the memory of our dearest Sumit Chakravartty. Thank you.
Rami Chabra.
Thank you. We come together in grief today to mourn and also celebrate Sumit, who has been really a beacon of journalistic integrity, courage, and conviction. I first met Sumit in 1985. I still remember Vigyan Bhavan, where Nikhilda was there, and who was trying to persuade me at that moment to part with the P.C. Joshi report, of which I had been a member too, on an Indian personality for television, which we had just submitted to the government. And it had, as is the case with most reports, gone on to the bureaucratic shelves because the Secretary INB then, as bureaucrats do, scented the change, the whiff in the air, to the corporatization of the media, and found that the report that we had furnished was the antithesis of what was going to happen. And so It never saw the light of day in the government, but Nikhil Chakravartty brought out chapters in mainstream. And Sumit, at that time, I found when I was introduced to him, seemed to be in the shadows, a self-effacing, quiet person. But one watched him over the years grow and fit into Nikhil Da's shoes, and as someone just now said, perhaps even outstripped the legacy in the way he built mainstream. I would like to recall a couple of occasions when I found, when I had to interact with Sumit, the year 1999, when we had that media conference where Suhas Borkar was there to discuss the post-Kargil scene. And I spoke my Punjabi poem, Asman Hai Saadi Sanji Seema. And as soon as the meeting was over, Sumit came to me and said, I want to publish this, but I will publish it only with an English translation. And I said, but Sumit, how? I can't do that just now. Oh, sit you down. And he sat down with me, and together we worked out the English translation, and he ran the Punjabi poem with the English translation in the forthcoming publication of the mainstream. But perhaps my most memorable memory of Sumit's journalistic integrity is 2007, when I was running from pillar to post, trying to find media friends, stalwarts whom I'd known, to give me space to write about or speak about the scam that was occurring in the whole HIV/AIDS program with its distorted strategies that were destabilizing the social society and with fudged figures that bore no relation with enormous funds that the government was giving it. And of course, I found the media stalwarts, many of them who are still media stalwarts, turning their faces the other side because they didn't want to have criticism of a program that was so donor-driven, other than, and I see those people right here also, Purinjoy Gua Thakurta, who gave me an hour on the Rajya Sabha channel, and H.K. Dua, who I think has just gone, but who gave me space in the Tribune for a string of articles. But Sumit came to me suo motu. I didn't even think of going to mainstream at that point. And he said, Rami, I'm bringing out the annual issue of mainstream, and you write what you want to write. And not only did he allow me to write 15 pages in that 100-page issue, but I was traveling, and he came home the night before I was leaving with the proofs in his hand, because there had been a number of tables and graphs that we had put there to authenticate what was the argument. And he said, I don't want to have any mistake in any of these. And he sat there with me through the late evening, corrected it and took it back, and then phoned me wherever I was to say, it's come out. That was Sumit. And I have one final insight into Sumit's personality to share with you before I end, and that's appropriate right here in this hall in IIC. It was the year when Soli Sorabji was president, and I don't think I'm doing anything wrong in sharing something of two people that are now gone. But Soli Sorabji was in difficulty because there was a massive protest by the members of the IIC on some things that were happening. He was president of India International Center, and we knew that there was going to be a bit of a mayhem in the AGM that was going to be taking place the next day. So Nihal Singh, Sumit and I went to see Soli and to plead with him, look, resign. Don't allow this to happen. And I remember Sumit in his very quiet way. Soli looked quite unimpressed with what we were talking, because he felt he was not going to chicken out from a challenge. And then Sumit said to him quietly, "Sir, you are lending luster to the IIC by being its president. You don't need this to add luster to your personality." And Soli just looked at him and kept quiet. The next day, we came away thinking that we had not really made a mark. But the next day, Soli walked into the AGM, and before the uproar, and you will remember that, there was quite an uproar happening here in this room. Soli said, "Please hold it. I just want to tell you, first of all, I resign as of now." And of course, everything subsided. Later that night, Soli Sarabji rang me up and he said, "I think that quiet editor of the Mainstream had something very telling to tell me." So that remark had gone home and he acted on it. That was Sumit, quiet, self-effacing, a total gentleman, but with the courage of his convictions, with the strength of character, with journalistic integrity that is rare and getting rarer by the day. We'll miss you. We'll miss you sorely, Sumit. And Gargi, my heart goes out to you because I know what a lovely comradeship you had with him. May you keep better health. God bless.
Manoranjan Mohanty.
Sumit, the journalist of courage and conviction and the determined fighter for values, was active on many fronts, and in some of those fronts we were colleagues. One was the democratic rights movement, civil liberty and democratic rights movement, during the last 30, 40 years. On so many occasions, not only first Nikhilda, then Sumit would publish our reports before we would be able to even find a way to publish the PODR, PUCL, and all those reports. First, they will come out in mainstream. The Indravali report from 1982, right up to POSCO, or even recent reports. And Sumit was part of so many of our initiatives in solidarity with people's movements against these aggressive displacement projects like POSCO. Many others, but I will give you one example. The POSCO steel plant in Jagatsinghpur. Sumit, me, 4 or 5 others, we were in a fact-finding team, and we had gone and we came back from Erasama, the POSCO area, and it had become something like 9:30 in night, and we were surrounded by the pro-POSCO people on the road. Now here, Sumit was the quiet, determined colleague. Nothing to worry, we will argue. That's all that he said. And we argued. We said, let's know your viewpoint and let's debate what is good for the people of Jagatsinghpur and Orissa. And so the argument proceeded, and we never lost patience, and we succeeded in telling them that we will surely consider your objections in our press conference tomorrow, in our report, and we will tell why other people, and we support those people, are opposing it. In such confrontational situations, I've seen the the gentle, determined, quiet, rational person. And now, I'm sure Saida would say more, as he's our Pakistan-India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy president. We had two. Tapan passed away last year. Tapan Bose. Right from day one, Sumit was a core member and one of the main stalwarts of the Pakistan-India People's Forum. And he went to Karachi, we were together, and particularly one incident, one week's activities I want to recall, 2002. And after the 2001 December Parliament attack, the tensions had been so bad, because right now, I think those things should be recalled. A delegation of 4 or 5 of us, not a delegation, 4 or 5 of us, Sumit was one of them, Gautam was another. And we went and met leaders of political parties, all political parties, including L.K. Advani, Manmohan Singh, some people met Sonia Gandhi, and so on. And we wanted that the channels must be opened, channels of talks, channels of communication among people must be opened. And we were able to make some impact. And Sumit was in that initiative. He was determined, and he was in the peace movement from day one. And finally, I will say that he was very close to CSD, where I'm also located after my retirement from Delhi University for the last 20 years. And he was a very close friend of Muskund Dubey. And among the many initiatives we took, well, one of our initiatives, of which Suhas was a part, was a facelift for D. Bandyopadhyay, who was not only famous for Operation Barga, but also in Nandigram and in those movements he was active. And Sumit was one of the editors of the volume. We put together on land equity and democracy together. Many such initiatives. And with Muskund Dubey, he and some others, including Bharat Bhushan, they every 5 years brought out, sometimes I was part of that initiative, brought out a citizens' charter before the elections, a citizens' manifesto for the people to, this is non-partisan but secular, democratic. And we wanted electors to put those issues on the forefront while casting their vote on the eve of every elections until the last. So Sumit, the courageous Democrat, the journalist, the intellectual, the peace and democratic rights activist. He was an asset in life. His legacy will continue to be an asset for future generations.
Nalini Mohanty will read out a message from Achin Vinayak.
Just before reading out this message, I'll just speak a few words. When Suhas asked me if I would like to speak on an occasion like this, I told him that I did not know Sumit so intimately. I had shared platforms with him a couple of times. I had much closer interaction with his father. When I was a student in JNU, master's student, I used to write quite frequently for the mainstream. And with the warmth with which Nikhil Chakravartty used to invite me and encourage me to publish, to write them, I really had that in my mind when I opted for journalism as a career. With Sumit, but I saw Sumit certainly carrying forward Nikhilda's legacy with equal conviction and courage. And as everyone said here, despite being self-effacing, he always had enormous impact on any project that he was undertaking. I now read out Achin Bhanat's message. Like many in the audience, I got to know Sumit Chakravartty through his father, Nikhil Chakravartty. The year was 1978. I had just returned to Delhi from London after deciding to settle in India permanently. As a committed leftist, I naturally gravitated to magazines like Mainstream and soon got involved in the debates that were taking place in the pages of Mainstream. Nikhil was kind enough to recommend me as a possible contributor to the Times of India, whose editor then was Girilal Jain, who in his early years had been a great admirer of M.N. Roy. I eventually landed a job as assistant editor in the Times of India, Bombay. Over the years, particularly after leaving the TOI and shifting to Delhi, I got to know Sumit more. I'd always admired Mainstream, but the commitment he displayed in keeping it going in the years that followed his father's passing was indeed very striking. As an editor, he brought a certain philosophy to his work. He kept the publication open to different currents of the left and liberal left for analysis of contemporary developments in India and abroad, as well as on more theoretical disputes. This was distinctive and stood out in great contrast to the newspapers and journals connected with political parties, and also to the more academic, research-oriented ones like the Economic and Political Weekly. Sumit was simply not an editor. He was just not one who was just sitting behind the desk. He was a committed activist, ever willing to plow the streets in various demonstrations and to work in whatever way he could to promote progressive organizations. In early 1992, he and Suhas Borkar were instrumental in helping set up working group on alternative strategies. Given the turn in economic and foreign policies that had just taken place under Narasimha Rao government, as well as the severe degeneration in communal relations caused domestically by the Sant Parivar and the Ram Janmabhoomi campaign. Particularly memorable was his key role in organizing, on January 26, 1993, the March for Communal Harmony from Vijay Chowk to India Gate, commemorating Nehru's famous Republic Day Citizens' March of 1963. Today, we need, more than ever, public intellectuals and activists like Sumit. He was a friend and a comrade who will be sorely missed.
Saida Hamid.
Friends, comrades, and all of us sitting here who held Sumit very dear, a beloved friend, Tanya, Sagnik, Nilanjana, and other members of the family who are right here in the audience. Everyone has already spoken about their relationship with mainstream. I just want to say about Sumit being a South Asian. Many years ago, Pak India Dosti Manch, many years ago, I was very awestruck, but I was right next to Nikhil Chakravartty when we went to the Wagah border. Things were relatively peaceful, not that strident. Nikhil Chakravartty and Kuldeep Nayyar and Bharti Nayyar. And that tradition continued. Manoranjan had mentioned it. I just want to briefly speak about the fact that when 100 Pakistanis came to Calcutta, Jyoti Basu welcomed them. Sumit was at the vanguard of it. We stayed at the Pakistanis, and some of us stayed at the Great Eastern Hotel. It was in shambles, so it was easy to find a room and at a very modest rate. That was a moment to be cherished. Thousands of people of Calcutta were on the esplanade. And Sumit, whether he was in Karachi, Lahore, Quetta, Peshawar, he was immensely loved and popular. And he exuded that kind of a South Asian personality. There were two people who I essentially call South Asians. One is Sumit Chakravartty, and the other one is my very good friend, and all of you remember her, Kamla Bhasin. So that these were people who looked beyond the narrow definitions that we find so claustrophobic. Sumit, we will miss you a lot. We hope that some of us, for the little time that we have left, will be able to carry the flag. We will be able to bring peace, equanimity, fellow feeling, and Jamhuriyat in the true sense in our life. And I would conclude by one couplet from Allama Iqbal, which I think symbolizes Sumit. Iqbal says, Nigah buland, the sight is high. Nigah buland, sukhan dil nawaz. The tone is loving, it's gentle. Nigah buland, sukhan dil nawaz, jaan pursoz. The heart is full of empathy. Nigah buland, sukhan dil nawaz, jaan pursoz. Yehi hai rakht safar mere karwan ke liye. This is the load that the Amir of the caravan, the leader of the caravan, bears. Sukhan Nigah buland, sukhan dil nawaz, jaan pursoz, yehi hai rakht safar mere karwan ke liye. Sumit was Amir of the caravan in many senses of the word. Thank you.
A message from Ramesh Sharma, the Gandhian activist, to be read out by Vinay Kumar.
This is a message from Sumit Da's close friend and a Gandhian activist, Ramesh Bhai. He is in Jaipur. He has sent this message in Hindi. मानवीय सरोकारों के धनी, नागरिक अधिकारों के समर्थक, एक निडर आवाज़, कलम के सिपाही, जागरूक सतर्क नागरिक, पत्रकारों में एक बुलंद आवाज़ बंद हो गई। श्री सुमित चक्रवर्ती से परिचय तो बहुत पहले से रहा, मगर सुहास भाई के माध्यम से उनसे तथा परिवार से अधिक अपनापन बना। उनके नहीं रहने से एक खालीपन, रिक्तता का एहसास महसूस होगा। आज जब गोदी मीडिया हावी है, उनकी कमी बहुत खलेगी। आज जब निर्भीक पत्रकारों की बहुत अधिक ज़रूरत है, ऐसे समय में ऐसे साथी का जाना एक चुनौती और चिंता बढ़ाता है। गांधी युवा बिरादरी एवं गांधी विचार के साथियों की ओर से हार्दिक श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करते हुए हम इस दुख की घड़ी में अपने को उनके परिवार के साथ खड़ा पाते हैं। राजस्थान प्रवास के कारण मैं व्यक्तिगत तौर पर उपस्थित नहीं हो पा रहा हूँ, इसका मेरे मन पर बोझ है। सुमित भाई सलाम, सादर जय जगत, रमेश चंद्र शर्मा।
Some video messages we have received. There is one from Moscow, from Fred Weir and Tatiana Shomin. Can you play that, Raju?
My name is Fred Weir. I am a journalist, longtime Moscow correspondent. I knew Sumit for many, many years. I wrote frequently for Mainstream about Russia. Always deeply respected him as a journalist and an editor, and also as a person of the world who was intensely interested in international affairs. I feel his loss, just as I'm sure you all do. I extend my deepest condolences. It's a terrible loss for journalism, for the world, and I hope that these few words can suffice to express my appreciation for Sumit and my sorrow at his loss. Now, may I introduce my mother-in-law, Tatiana Shamyan, who is a leading Indian expert in Russia and who knew Sumit far better than I did. Tanya?
Thank you very much, Fred. I really appreciate, and I would like to say a few words about our very good friend of our, not only myself, but all my family, Sumit Chakravartty. He was a colleague and he was friend. He was very competitive journalist, and he published a lot of materials on Russia, on Soviet Union, and fortunately we had an opportunity to meet here in Moscow and sometimes in Delhi. And I remember very well his father, Nikhil Chakravartty. He was great journalist. He was editor of Mainstream, and he was always interested in our life and our events in this country. And it's very sad news which we got from Delhi, and I express my condolences to his family, and I think that we would not forget Sumit. Thank you.
We'll play a message from Syed Badrul Ehsan, the veteran journalist from Bangladesh, who sent this from London.
Here in London, I miss my friend Sumit Chakravartty. An intellectual is gone. A writer is gone from us. A gentle person is gone from us. There was gentleness in him. In his demeanor, there was politeness. When he organized the birth centenary celebrations of the late Nikhil Chakravartty, along with my friend Rakesh Bottabel in 2013, I came to know him a bit more closely than before. He was a wonderful person, and later on, I got to interacting with him a little more. I wanted to write for Mainstream. I regularly read Mainstream. He wanted me to write for that magazine. And then only the other day, I was thinking of seeking his advice on some research I'm planning to do in the near future in India. But now comes news that he is gone. Wherever you are, my friend Sumit, we will remember you. And do rest assured that one of these days, sooner rather than later, we will join you. Rest in peace, my friend. Your contributions will never be forgotten. You'll always be with us. You are a scholar, you are an intellectual, and your contributions will never be forgotten. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being there with us, and do wait for us. We will come and see you soon. Goodbye, my friend.
Beena Sarwar, Pakistan, who sent this from Colombo.
Dear friends in Delhi, this is Beena Sarwar from Pakistan, speaking to you now from Sri Lanka. I'm so glad to know that you're having a commemoration for our dear friend and comrade Sumit Chakravartty, who was a stalwart and who upheld all those values that all of you gathered here and all of us joining this commemoration hold dear, of pluralism and peace and collaboration and humanitarian values. I knew Sumit ji through the Pakistan India People's Forum many years ago, like 25 or something years ago, and we reconnected after the passing of B.M. Kutty in Karachi. Sumit ji posted on the PIPFPD WhatsApp group addressing me and Jatin Desai by name, because I think he knew us from the PIPFPT of those earlier years. And then I reached out to him because I wasn't sure exactly who he was, and it turned out that he was Nikhil Chakravarty's son. And Nikhil Chakravartty I knew through through another mentor, Dr. Mubashir Hassan, who had delivered a lecture at IIC in 2003 saying "The Walls Must Come Down," which was the title of one of Nikhil Chakravarty's essays in Mainstream, the magazine that he had founded in the 1960s that Sumit ji ran and handed over to Harsh Kapoor in his lifetime before he got taken really ill with the stroke. Sumit ji was, we didn't meet, all these years, but like I said, we stayed in touch. And he, in August 2019 also, it was soon after Kutty Saab's passing, the abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir, and Sumit ji took the time and trouble to translate a report from a Bengali newspaper about a young man called Arifuddin Molla who stood in Kolkata for 8 hours with a sign saying, "I am Pakistani, slap me or hug me." And he sent me a photograph, a cutting of that newspaper, and the report which said that nobody slapped him. And the headline of that article was, and many came forward to embrace him, and the headline of the article was, "Pakistanis, this is Kolkata, this is Bengal." And Sumit ji also introduced me to his friend E.S. Reddy in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I live now. Unfortunately, Reddy Saab passed away during COVID and I couldn't meet him, but it was so kind of Sumit ji to make that connection. E.S. Reddy, who again many of you would know from South Africa, who was a stalwart of the anti-apartheid movement. Anyway, I'll just close here by saying that these are legacies that we must keep taking forward, and I wish I was there with you to commemorate Sumit ji together. Thank you.
Vijay Naik, convener of the Indian Association of Foreign Correspondents. He is presently in Atlanta at the US.
Late Sumit Chakravartty was my close friend. He was a fighter. He was very soft spoken, but at the same time, very scathing if he wanted to say something frankly about the subject. He would not fear anybody and would ask frank questions which might sometimes antagonize the person who was answering them. He was an illustrious son of illustrious father. Nikhil Chakravartty, his father, started the magazine Mainstream in 1962. It had seen many ups and downs. The magazine closed for a short period in emergency, but later on it was revived again. And Sumit Chakravartty ran it successfully for a very, very long time. Now, that magazine is there in digital form. And Sumit was very considerate to donate the other issues, issues of archives to Ashoka University, where now one can read them, the researchers can go and read them. Sumit was a very nice person, a gentleman, and was also had a sense of humor. So we have lost a fine journalist in his death. The Indian Association of Foreign Affairs Correspondents, of which I am a convener, expresses deep condolences on his demise and feels that God will bless him when he is no more, but at the same time his memories will remain with us forever.
Harsh Kapoor, the editor of Mainstream presently. MP4 में आया था. If you can't locate it, we'll go to Sagari Chabra. Raju, you please locate it in the meantime.
Namaskar. It was my privilege, it was my honor to write for Mainstream from the 90s and work closely with Sumit Chakravartty. I thought he was an amazing editor. He had so much political acumen, but he was also at the same time a thorough gentleman. I have never ever seen a man like him. I doubt I will ever be able to meet someone who is both a gentleman and an editor again. I have lots of wonderful memories, but I will stick to only two. One, Medha Patkar was on hunger strike. We were all there. And the police came and they swooped down on us and they picked us all of us up, including Sumit, and took us into a police lockup. So there were quite a few of us there, and all of a sudden, Sumit said, you have to go out, you have to issue a press release, otherwise how will everyone know that we are locked up? So I went to the cop and I said that I have to go out. My editors told me I have to file a press release. And he laughed. He said, you are under arrest and you want to go and file a press release, forget it. So Sumit went to the cop. We are all inside a police station, and he started telling him there's a second freedom struggle going on. He started explaining freedom of press, democratic rights. This press release has to go out. And you know, the way he talked to the cop so calmly, with so much patience, that the cop, he managed to convince the cop. And the cop let me out. And I issued a press release, and the press carried that. I mean, there was halchal mach gayi. So this was Sumit Chakravartty. Like how he could get everyone together, how he could be so calm, so polite, and yet, convince that anyone. He was a 1 in a million person. The second thing I want to say is that Gargi Tanya, she was his comrade, she was with him, supporting him all the way. But one thing I was very touched by the couple, how they held anniversary, when there was a 60th anniversary of Mainstream, they held a meeting and they honored people who wrote for Mainstream over a period of time, put a shawl around them. I've never seen I know writers and journalists are abused a lot. That's part of our daily, we are so used to it. But for an editor to come and place a shawl and give so much respect to writers and journalists writing. There will never be another person like Sumit. I have nothing but the most wonderful memories. Bless you, and we will do our best to carry forward your wonderful work. Thank you so much.
The message from Pamela Philippos to be read by Nilanjana Roy.
This is a short tribute from the journalist and author Pamela Philippos on Sumit Chakravartty. Many among us who have gathered here to celebrate the life of Sumit Chakravartty will remember above all the air of calm that seemed to resonate in everything he did. Even in dealing with situations of great tumult, he never appeared to lose that hallmark equanimity, his sense of balance, fair play, and plain decency. The son of two towering figures, Nikhil Chakravartty, a doyen of journalism, and Renu Chakravartty, MP and leading figure in the leftist women's movement, Sumit Mamu wore his lineage lightly, going on to create a rich legacy of his own. Mainstream, under his editorship, always bore the banner line founded by Nikhil Chakravartty. It was a reminder that he was but a trustee of his father's treasury of words. Yet as an editor, he ploughed his own furrow, allowing the pages of Mainstream to reflect the thoughts of a wide spectrum of thinkers, social activists, poets, and politicians from the broad left, many of whom he may have disagreed with, but he never hesitated to publish. And when the time came for him to stand up and be counted, he never failed. As he wrote in the pages of Mainstream on December 20th, 2016, from the time the present dispensation at the center seized the levers of power in mid-2014, the attack on minorities in order to distort the face of India and transform the country into a Hindu Pakistan by subverting the constitution carefully crafted under the inspiring leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has been unabated. In Gargi Chakravartty, Sumit Mamu found a true partner. Her voice was always raised for the forgotten and marginalized. Together, they must have dreamt of an India in which the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. They never gave up the struggle to achieve such a world. Our thoughts today are with Shagnik, Shumit's dearly beloved son. Thank you.
Mehtab Alam to read out the message from K. Raghunath, the former Foreign Secretary.
Like Mohanty sir, before I read out the message from Ambassador K. Raghunath, I would like to say a few words. Unlike most of you, my association with Sumit Da was not a long and close one. I knew him as the editor of Mainstream Weekly and someone who was a champion of press freedom. In 2010, while I was still learning journalism and how to write, he invited me to contribute to the magazine. Later, several of my articles and essays were reproduced from other publications. I particularly recall his involvement and interest in the rights of human rights defenders, especially journalists, those who are working and reporting from remote areas and conflict zones, and especially those who are reporting in non-English languages from small towns. Personally speaking, he was an inspiration for me and someone from whom I learned how to balance deep empathy for justice and human rights with objectivity and professionalism. May we carry forward his legacy. Now I am reading the tribute by Ambassador K. Raghunath, former Foreign Secretary. First, I join the audience in extending our heartfelt condolences and sympathies to the family, and in our prayers that find the strength and fortitude to endure the grievous loss. Speaking personally, like others present, I am deeply saddened by the passing of a good friend of many years. For me, this goes back to 1970s. Age also depends the sense of a void. In honoring his memory, I would recall first his gentle, soft-spoken demeanor, equable temperament, and his unfailing courtesy and civility. What struck me in particular from very early years of our acquaintance was that these were not incidental personality traits, but a reflection of a deep-seated spirit of kindness, compassion, and large-heartedness, as well as empathy and understanding. Also of fundamental importance was his conviction that ethics and morality are central to politics and social relations. It is these innate and authentic elements of his character that constituted the foundation of his devoted concern for well-being of the disadvantaged and the underprivileged, for equity and equality, and not least for fair play and justice in politics and society and in international relations. They also provided the impulse for his sustained commitment to and effective action, primarily through journalism, for upholding these principles. One also had a sense that these beliefs amounted to a genuine value system in which, besides his belief in socialism in the best sense of term, humanism was an essential component. Further, his unflinching loyalty to the value system, as well as honesty and integrity in putting it to the practice that gave it meaning and relevance. To complete his profile, one must note that these qualities of heart were complemented by equally weighty qualities of head, pardon the cliche, that is mental equity and intellectual rigor, manifested above all an astute understanding of critical issues of society, politics, national and world affairs. In conversations and in seminars, he would, as rule, pose truly hardened questions, seeking clarifications of premises and assumptions and of the rationale of a particular course of action or policy. This was done in eminently honest and constructive spirit. I would also draw attention to the fact that he was a committed activist to the defense of right causes, notably among them communal harmony. Our friend in the print and digital media will no doubt give us a definitive understanding of his contribution to the world of journalism as a fairly regular reader of mainstream over years. I would reaffirm his integrity, his steadfastness, commitment to maintaining high professional standards, and in particular ensuring informed, fair-minded coverage and interpretations of events and developments. Further, objectively speaking, it is no mean achievement in the first instance on the part of Shri Nikhil Chakravartty to have founded a journal of this quality and substantial and sustain its regular publication over decades. And for Sumit Chakravartty to have so effectively nurtured and strengthened the mainstream tradition. May best wishes to mainstream continuing success to its digital version. Thank you.
Can we have Harsh Kapoor now? He's come in from Paris.
I want to thank the Indian International Center.
Put the volume up.
Suhas Purkar, like Bharat Bhushan, and many people from the media, organizations, and individuals who have lent a hand in organizing this memorial meeting for Sumit Chakravartty. I got to know Sumit Chakravartty from 1994 onwards, in a way. For an editor of a serious political weekly with the looming cultural shadows of the conventional party left, he was a pleasant, accessible, open-minded man with scruples that he would not compromise. During the NDA years, when India got a taste of the Hindutva right wing in power, I had said to many people that in the years ahead, the right wing would grow in influence and that publications of the left must grow their reach by going online. I got Sumit Chakravartty to agree on this. And so since 2007, I have run a website that propelled the online replica of the print version of mainstream 2010 onwards. I very fondly remember the regular calls, meetings with Sumit Chakravartty with political discussion, packed with stories and memories from his days in Russia, his various engagements with the various media groups and papers in India. Also stories of the left and progressive media, news agencies, and so on. In March 2020, when the COVID-19 lockdown began, a few days later, Sumit called and he said he had decided to shut down the office of Mainstream and close the print edition of it. Of course, what he didn't say that this was at the same time a big, a very big thing for him to handle. The Mainstream office used to be packed with bound volumes of Mainstream from 1962 to early 2020. On my suggestion, this huge collection was donated to the Ashoka University archives. And now with his office shut and his daily routine gone, he was badly affected. He would not talk about it. But it was obvious that a man who went through each single line of the print edition would sit in the office till late night to produce the weekly. This would be a personal blow given the whole legacy and so on. I personally felt very honored when he showed confidence in me by passing the baton to edit Mainstream, its online version. Knowing my rather different political orientation, shaped by more, let us say, the post-1968 non-party independent New Left, he accorded trust. I truly thank him for having shown appreciation for the a kind of new, remodeled, refashioned weekly that has since then, from time to time, also published materials that may have been taboo to the old left repertoire. He wanted mainstream to be seen as an open space for all left democratic circles, keeping away from dogmas, giving visibility to dissenting voices, and for all struggling for constitutional rights. I have kept my word to him. It's been over 5 years I've produced the weekly nearly non-stop. And I'm committed to keeping mainstream weekly alive. I want to honor his memory by inviting new people who can contribute and enrich public discussion on new utopias of the left and practical politics of emancipation. Thank you very much.
Rakesh Bhattabyal.
I teach in JNU, and through my association, I wanted to highlight 3 points, which would also highlight what Sumit's absence actually would mean. And these all 3 points are institutional. First, Sumit Babu, as everyone has spoken and you can get a sense of it, also transitioned, or rather was a person, as a journalist, as an intellectual, as an activist, as a mobilizer of opinion, did not have has a kind of boundary line between academia and journalism. Indians are prone to make castes wherever they enter. Therefore, journalists is a caste and academia is a caste. And there is a Brahmo who doesn't believe in caste. Therefore, it might have something to do with history that he carried on the national movement legacy of journalism, journalist, editor being public intellectual, and public intellectual had no boundaries between journalism and university. It is in this context, therefore, when I was asked to start, or rather suggested that I should take on to help start a new department of media studies, I told the Vice Chancellor that I'm not a journalist, neither a media person. He said, no, you are the right person. I thought about it. I had enormous doubt, and first person I called, because my supervisor was not well, was Sumit Babu. He said, do you think I'm the right person to do all these? He said, yes, you're the right person, but tomorrow we'll discuss about it. And that tomorrow he convinced me that I was the best person in the world to do that. This is in a manner of camaraderie. But I knew him from '94 when my first article I read a book which everybody was going gaga over, but I had doubts. So I wrote a small piece and I gave it to my teacher, Bipan Chandra, and he immediately called Sumit. Sumit, something is there, he should come and tell you. So that was the first article of mine which was published, and I made it a point that all my PhD students for the last 10 years published their first article in mainstream. So it is in this sense that if Sumit is mainstream, thankfully we were promised and we were actually seeing that happening. If mainstream was not there and Sumit was not there, we would not have Bharat Dogra, we would not have Anil Noria, we would not have Ajit Mojumdar, we would not have Manoranjan Mohanty's reports. All of these comes to us without any announcement of contrarian views. They come, and that's why mainstream was so important, because it was actually accessible even to people who did not believe in many of the things that were spoken there. And it is in this sense, therefore, the third point that I thought was very significant was that about humanity, everybody talked about. Sumit was also very embedded into the Eastern European history politics. Maybe his stint with in Moscow has something to do with it, but I think it's much more than that. Because he also was coming of age in 90s, and therefore what was happening in the transitional situation there, he was very well aware and wanted to be well aware. Therefore, when he heard that I'm interested in this, he gave me his address book, so to say. He knew almost every Eastern European journalist in this city. And he was bemoaning by 2015, 2014, he was bemoaning the fact that we do not have that kind of people here any longer, Polish or Czech or Romanian. He knew almost everyone. And unfortunately, he was not getting that kind of input from Eastern European Studies Center or Russian Studies Center in the country. So therefore, and finally he found a comrade in Arun Mohanty who unfortunately passed away. So he was actually, every time we meet, he will tell me about what is happening, and then he would ask me, knowing my interest. And this ended in a very tragic note in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. He was the first one to call me, what is happening? And then for the next 10 days, he would call me at least 10, 15 times. Every rumor that he would heard, he wanted to confirm, get it confirmed, whether Putin is facing a regime change. This was a phone call that I got at 11:30 at night. So therefore, what mainstream, and then I looked at the old issues of mainstream, 60s and 70s, MSN Menon was publishing enormous lot of things. I would ask him what MSN Menon is doing. He said he's turned right, So this, without any malice. But Sumit's going will actually, we'll lose someone who had a sense and then engage people to write in mainstream about Eastern Europe. Because what is happening is extreme securitization of our discussion in the university as well as outside. It's all about security, which in fact mainstream and the people who wrote in mainstream and under the leadership of Sumit Chakravartty was giving a humane sense of it. Humanitarian, I won't say because that is another politics today, is a humane and larger, universal sense of thing, cosmopolitan sense of thing, rather than the security sense of thing. And in this line, his miss will be missed. His absence will be missed in terms of what is happening in Bangladesh, because he was well embedded in the Bangladesh politics, Bangladesh leaders, and this is where my personal association with him of all these years comes to a very interesting point when one day I decided that the new center that we were setting up, Center for Media Studies, will have an centenary celebration for Nikhil Chakravartty. I got it cleared by the Vice Chancellor and all, and then I called him. I didn't take any permission because that was not, I thought it was not needed because Nikhil Chakravartty himself was a public figure. And the first call went and he said, Ki koresho? What have you done? And he was not very keen. But I said, it's not your thing, it's my thing. I'm just asking, I'm not asking permission. And once he was in my pocket, then for the next 6 months, every personal detail about the conference, he would come and inquire, and then he was in a hurry of an editor. He would see the conference next day. But being the lazy of an academia, I wanted to have 6 months later. But this is a beautiful harmony came up, and the conference that Saidaji and everyone there, I haven't seen such a beautiful conference. The bonus of the conference was that we had Dr. Kamal Hussain from Dhaka and other, Badrullah Hassan, we got to know that things are not well. And Sumit was very agitated because he was agitated. He was very happy when the Shahbag protest happened in 2013 and just a couple of months before. And then we were hearing something which was not very happy. Therefore, Sumit's absence in this today's world where Bangladesh becomes just a security issue for us, I think will be missed, bringing the larger domain of what is happening there. So Eastern Europe, Bangladesh, these two areas I thought where we don't have much of, or Bangladesh means in the sense of South Asia that everybody talked about, will be much missed in his absence will actually give us a sense as to what this securitization of academic discourse within the university, militarization of the journalistic discourse outside. It is in this milieu that we live today, and therefore this absence will be great for us. Thank you.
We're just about to be closing now. SN Sahu.
I recall one incident from Rashtrapati Bhavan President Narayanan was finalizing a speech, and he instructed me, after this speech is delivered, do not give it to media, give it to Sumit. He will publish it in mainstream. I was quite struck by that, because I told him, sir, once you speak, obviously media will pick up. He said, that's fine, but let mainstream first get it. I didn't know that he was held in with such high esteem by President of India. Again, when Mr. Narayanan, as president, was meeting the King of Nepal, he asked me, you bring 3 or 4 media people to the meeting. It was quite unusual, because meetings between the head of the state are normally not covered by media. So then immediately I contacted Harish Khare. That time he was Chief of Bureau, Hindu. I said, can you suggest me 3, 4 media people's names who would come and attend that, very important meeting? He said, first and foremost, bring Sumit Chakravartty. And I do not remember who else was contacted. And he came. I asked Harish Khare, but why do you suggest Sumit Chakravartty for that extremely important meeting? He said, first and foremost, he's a gentle journalist. So that was how Mr. Sumit Chakravartty was. And I will just refer to mainstream effect. Mainstream effect, when he was editor, I was that time in Prime Minister's office. I told him, this is the 75th anniversary of Dandi March of Mahatma Gandhi, which commenced in 1930. I would like to write an article, a very long piece, 3,000-4,000 words, outlining contemporary significance of Dandi March. Dandi March, of course, everybody knows, was organized to break salt law, to achieve independence of India. I told Sumit, Dandi March had a health component. Dandi March had a component concerning inequalities going on during that British period. Dandi March for the cause of doctors and so on and so forth. I said, from where did you get all that information? I said, from the writings of Gandhi. It was published. And lo and behold, I got a mail from one John Brusen from Austria. And Mr. Brusen said, how difficult it would have been for you to write this well-researched article on Dandi March. I would like to contribute some thousands of euros. And then I submitted that letter to the Prime Minister's office. He said, once you accept these euros, IB will be after you. Politely decline. But you find out who this John Brusen is. And even today, I have those mails. I asked him, how did you get to know about mainstream? I said, somebody sent it, a scanned copy to me from India. And he was a fan of Mahatma Gandhi. And similarly, when I was in Rajya Sabha Secretariat, I wrote an article, Contemporary Significance on Dandi March. And I got a letter from somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. Can we translate that to Hindi? It was translated. So this is the mainstream effect, globally and nationally. And there are many more other memories, very significant memories. I remember here when President Narayanan delivered Borkar Memorial Lecture, I asked him, sir, what to do about this lecture? He said, send it to mainstream. So that was the kind of esteem which mainstream had in the eyes of President K.R. Narayanan. I'm sure that legacy will be taken forward, and we all need to join together to carry forward the legacy, and that would be best tribute to mainstream, which was started by Nikhil Chakravartty and is being now carried forward through the inspiration of Sumit.
We're coming right to the end. Neena De Gupta.
Actually, I do endorse everything which each speaker has spoken, so I will not take much time except to say that I had known the 3 generations of the Chakravartys really need to be applauded, because Sumit has turned out to be the real, courageous son of his father. Nikhilda I had met in my father's home. Renu Chakravartty also was there, and I found this couple was so intellectually together. I mean, the togetherness was marvelous. She was absolutely fiery parliamentarian. Her husband was a fire through his pen. So the two of them made such a great couple that I think it will be quite difficult for his grandson to emulate the two father and the grandfather in his own time, the way the things are going in our country. I don't know how long one can be very independent journalist. I do remember Sumit as having attended my 70th birthday celebration here, and he was he was always in conversation, no matter how fiery the topic was, no matter how fiery the issue was, in a very smiling manner, in a very sober manner. He would tackle with a few ambassadors were there at the party, and he would discuss with them very serious issues. And I would always marvel, I was always an admirer of journalists. My husband was one. And I said, I've never met a journalist who was so calm, so sober, and yet discussing the most difficult problems of the world in a very candid manner with not, as you say in Bengali, bhuru kuchke kotha bola. He would never have his eyebrows wrenched or no grouse against anybody. And I really admire that quality. I've known him for almost now 30 years, and he has published 5-6 articles of mine in the mainstream. So I really feel Sagonik did a very good job by conversing and being in touch with my son, telling him all about Sumit's development health-wise and going down health-wise in an almost weekly fashion. And just half an hour after he passed away, he gave a call to my son saying, I'm taking the first flight to Kolkata tomorrow morning, so I'll be in touch with you from Kolkata. And that's what he did. We attended the Brahmo Samaj memorial meeting in Kolkata digitally while he was with his relatives speaking at the memorial prayer meeting. And my son asked him, are you not having anything in Delhi? So he said, I have not the idea right now, but I'll let you know. So I'm so happy with Mr. Borkar. He collaborated, and he had this fantastic, beautiful memorial meeting, which I think will be memorable for all of us. And I hope, and I wish Gargi, and I wish Sagonik all the best, and for my condolences to you as a family and your relatives. Thank you.
Finally, Suhas Borkar, who wrote a very moving obituary for Sumit in the Indian Express the other day.
I'll just take just 2 minutes. I just want to share an incident which... no, you declined. No, you declined earlier. I'm sorry. Just 1 second, please. So, see, you break the chain of thought. You're marvelous at that. Just please. So, I just remember an incident when Medha Patkar was on an indefinite fast unto death at Jantar Mantar. And we were all there, and then these, it was some kind of a Jallianwala Bagh kind of a scenario where these Jat cops came from all directions and were going to take her and imprison her. And there was virtual stampede. And I remember that distinctly. Sumit just held my hand so strongly. Otherwise, I would have just gone that day. I mean, that was the kind of strength this man had. I mean, he would not only be strong in words, strong in his thoughts, strong in values, but he was physically also, I mean, unbelievably, he held my hand and I was not overthrown in that kind of stampede. And then we were of course arrested, and then we were taken to a cop van and we were put there. But for us, it was a signal that the cops disappeared after leaving the van doors open. So then Sumit said, I think that's a signal that we should leave. So then we rushed to AIMS and, to check on how Medha was doing. So I'm just telling you a very simple, small incident of how strong that man was, and I salute him today. Thank you. Now, can we have a 2-minute silence, please? If you just get up, rise, and and then we'll end with the Raghupati Raghav. Yeah.
Raghupati Raghav, Raja Ram, Patita Pavana.
Silence, 2 minutes. There's tea in the veranda, please.